Hello, it's me. And today we're going to find out what happens when Little Nutbrown Hare gets lost in a wood. Little Nutbrown Hare was looking forward to her spring walk. After the winter, she and all of her animal friends were very excited to be able to go outside again. Little Nutbrown Hare was so happy. This was the first spring she had spent in the woods after her family moved into their burrow beneath the great oak tree last autumn. Come and look, Nutbrown, what I found. She dropped a large pinnacone at Nutbrown's feet and chattered again before scampering off. The light was hazy here, and when Nutbrown looked up, she could see only leaves and sky. She stood still, sniffing the air. Then she remembered her mother telling her about the big wood. She wandered on, calling for help, but only the wind answered her. Soon the light began to fade and the trees grew darker and scarier. Nutbrown walked faster, her heart beating like a drum. I was trying to find my way home, but I don't know the way. Can you help me, please? She stumbled over roots and fallen trunks, scratched her paws on sharp stones, and tore her new boots on brambles. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the shapes that reached out to grab at her. She sniffed, trying to catch the scent of home, but all she smelled was wet leaves and decay. Don't ever go there, Nutbrown, her mother had said. Nutbrown, cried her mother, scooping her up in a tight hug. Now come home. You must be tired and hungry. She nuzzled Nutbrown before disappearing back into the trees. I didn't mean to go so far away. I just wanted to explore. She helped me find my way back, Nutbrown said. But it's scary in there, and I'm never going back. They tumbled over each other in delight at seeing her. We were so worried, said Mossy, the youngest. But where did you go? I can't imagine why anyone would want to go there. Where have you been? We've been so worried. She served up some juicy roots and berries she had gathered, and they ate in silence for a moment. And rushing into it, she found a small pond fringed with buttercups, red campion and creeping jenny. And sitting on a nearby log was Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. She and her brothers had meant to surprise Mrs. Tiggy Winkle by making her a bed of heather, but now their secret was out. She walked over and gave it a sniff. Then she looked up at her brothers. Look, she said, I know where she lives. Oh, hello, she said. What brings you here? And she pointed her paw at a hole at the base of the log. But you must calm down if you want me to find your way back. Just follow the stream, and when you reach the pond, you can't go wrong. She looked at Nutbrown. And as for you, Nutbrown, remember, if you get lost again, their mother scolded them gently for wandering off, but she was just glad to have them back. Have fun dressing up and acting out stories with our clothes. And as they snuggled down in their warm bed of leaves, they knew they had the best mother and the kindest neighbors in the whole wide world. Come on, brothers, let's race you home. And they set off as fast as they could go. Just follow the stream to the nearest pond, and I'll be sure to help you. Now, tell me, how did you get here? Close your eyes and I'll take you back. I dreamed that someone had made me a bed of heather and honeysuckle, and I curled up inside, safe and warm, and slept and slept. When they reached the pond, Nutbrown called out, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, are you there? But there was no answer. Only the dragonflies answered them, flashing their jeweled wings in the afternoon sun. She led Nutbrown along a winding path, and after a while, Nutbrown felt a familiar breeze on her face. She could hear birds singing and the distant drumming of a woodpecker. Nutbrown knew she was dreaming because her little snuffles came out as snorts. Nutbrown and her brothers stood very still, listening. She opened her eyes and gasped. She could see the trees that fringed the clearing. Just beyond them, she could see the dappled sunlight on the forest floor and hear the busy hum of insects. She raced toward the light, calling for her mother and brothers. If you do, you may never find your way home. But Nutbrown couldn't resist. She wanted to see what was beyond the trees. So she turned and ran. She put on her new red boots and a matching hat and went bounding through the undergrowth. She hopped over moss-covered stones and through ferns that unfurled like 1,000 tiny green parasols. She sniffed at celandine flowers pushing up through the damp earth and chased a bumblebee from blossom to blossom. All around her, the forest floor was a patchwork quilt of bluebells, white dog violets and purple and white pansies. The trees were tall and close together. They had strange shapes and faces, and the ground was dark and spongy. Not a bird sang in the big wood, and there was no sound but the rustling of leaves overhead. A little breeze stirred, and Nutbrown pulled her floppy ears back as a dead leaf brushed against her cheek. All around her, the air smelled of damp earth and decaying wood, and suddenly she felt very scared. She wanted to go home. As she sat munching on a juicy dandelion, Floppy the squirrel chattered down from a branch above her. Nutbrown looked at the heavy cone. It was covered with little brown scales, each one edged with a lighter stripe. She pushed one open and found it full of silky threads. "What a beautiful nest it will make," she said, and she set off to find somewhere dry and sheltered where she could weave a cozy bed for her youngest brother. She went on and on until she came to a wide gash in the trees. The undergrowth soon closed in over her head, shutting out the light. But which way was that? She had been running, and now she didn't know which path to take. Just when she thought she couldn't go on any longer, she saw a clearing ahead of her. "Oh, how I've missed you," cried Nutbrown, throwing her paws around the hedgehog's neck. "I got lost, Mrs." Tiggy Winkle looked at her muddy and tear-stained face. "Of course I'll help you," she said. Nutbrown thought for a moment. "I went through a gap in the trees, but I don't know which way it was," she said. "Very well," said Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Soon, a brown blur streaked out from the trees. "I'm sorry, Mother," said Nutbrown, burying her face in her mother's fur. Her mother stroked her back. "I know you do, my love, but this is a lesson you won't forget in a hurry." Together, they went back to their burrow under the great oak tree, where her 3 brothers were waiting. Nutbrown told them about the big wood and how she had met Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. "It's much too dark and gloomy for me," said Dandelion, the eldest. After a time, her mother came back into the room and said, "Come, my loves, it's supper time." At last, Dandelion said, "I think we should go and see if we can find Mrs. Tiggy Winkle and thank her." "Good idea," said Nutbrown. So putting on their coats, they all set off toward the big wood. As Nutbrown sat on a stone, she noticed a clump of heather nearby, its tiny bells drooping like a fringe. They crept closer and heard Mrs. Tiggy Winkle talking in her sleep. "I had the most wonderful dream," Mrs. Tiggy Winkle was saying. When Nutbrown heard this, she felt tears pricking her eyes. Mrs. Tiggy Winkle opened one eye and saw them standing there. "We wanted to say thank you for helping Nutbrown find her way home," said Dandelion. Mrs. Tiggy Winkle smiled. "That was easy. Thank you, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle," said Nutbrown. Dandelion looked at the prickly bushes nearby and said, "Well, that sounds easy enough." Soon, they were tumbling over each other in delight at being home. This springtime story was brought to you by a children's clothing company.